For the 12 people always liking my post, y'all want anything from the Liminal McDonald's?
This is Okay, well that was weird. Let's try that again. This is a liminal space. And so is this. And this. And this. And this. And this. And this. Okay, wait, no, that's my cat. Point is, there are a lot of different liminal spaces. And it should be a surprise to absolutely nobody that as soon as this trend came out, Gmod map creators would jump on it immediately. But why do liminal spaces work so well in Gmod? I'd even go as far as arguing that Gmod map creators were pioneers in liminal spaces. And this goes back to the very creation of the game, which I'll get into. But first, what does it mean to be liminal? Well, okay. You remember those days as a kid? The days where you practically run home after school to get on the computer and play Gmod, just to open the 7-Eleven map and spawn a bunch of zombies? Those are the days we remember fondly and have the most nostalgia for. Well, it just so happens that liminal spaces play a lot in that nostalgia factor. In a lot of cases with liminal images, they like to trick your brain into having nostalgia for places you've probably never even been to. They do this with lack of specific details. And you know what else does that? That's right. Garry's mod, or more specifically the source engine, I suppose. This is a pretty simple McDonald's Gmod map that I think gets my point across pretty well. McDonald's is a really recognizable place, somewhere we all wanted to be at as kids and probably have very fond memories of. Pair that with these bland Gmod textures and the overall basic look of the restaurant, and you have yourself a liminal space in Gmod, not to mention the emptiness of the ordeal, which is another huge factor. And you know what? Oh, come on. The backrooms and liminal spaces are synonymous with each other. They're both very different concepts, but the backrooms uses liminal spaces as a base of operations. You take something that's already terrifying like the backrooms, and pair it with something that's confusingly nostalgic, and what you get in return is something like this image. Quote-unquote backrooms levels do this quite often, and I mean, for a horror genre, it works really well. Imagine being trapped here by yourself, somewhere so vaguely nostalgic that it's almost scary, and there's no escape. Ah! Talk to me.
Dude, what the hell are you doing? We gotta be looking at Gmod McDonald's maps.
Hello? Now let's look at some old Gmod maps that I think were the pioneers of liminalism in Gmod. Alright, this is the last McDonald's map, I swear. You've probably seen it before, it's pretty popular, and has also been around for a really long time. It's one of the more detailed, older Gmod maps. Don't get me wrong, the PNGs are still shitty, but come on, that's where all the charm is. And it's probably a big reason why these maps give off the same vibes as liminal spaces. I had a friend recently mention to me that seeing random PNGs on Gmod textures just pasted on is the reason why it looks so weird. And yeah, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Especially in older Gmod maps, it's like they're trying their hardest to make it look as real as possible without trying at the same time. This is House V3, a map that was posted to the workshop in 2013. It was featured in a ton of Venturian Tale videos, and when you get the right angle for this house, it's pretty liminal. Why is there a park style trash can in here? The only thing holding this map back from being truly liminal is how cramped it is. So let's change that real quick. I guess I forgot that you could easily just delete items. But here's what I got. Let me know what you think. There was a bunch of stuff that I couldn't get rid of, but I think I accomplished my goal. But I feel like we could get even older and even more classic than this. Like GM 7-Eleven. The basement area is full of liminal slop. And I mean, just look at Flatgrass, or at least what's under it. Come on, tell me you don't get the same vibes from this as you do from this. You can really find liminal spaces anywhere throughout this game, and it's really just because of the unsettling nature of it, which is most likely why there are so many horror mods and creepypastas written about it, and why again, it should be no surprise to anybody that Gmod creators jumped onto this trend. It's like liminal spaces were made for Garry's mod. But what if we apply the actual definition of something being liminal to a liminal space? This is the Google definition of liminal.
Occupying a position at or on both sides of a boundary or threshold.
That can basically be summed up as the point between destination A and B, while at the same time provoking some kind of discomfort. So how do you display this in a picture? Maybe with an empty house before someone moves in, a completely empty store that's closing down, or perhaps with a hotel hallway. In my opinion, hotel hallways are some of the most liminal spaces. At the very core of the phrase at least. If your bed is point A and the pool is point B, then the liminal point is the hallway. This Gmod map has no intentions of being liminal. It's even based off this old meme, which in itself is pretty liminal without the people. As of right now though, it's just a very long school hallway. Just means of getting to point A to point B. And it does a great job of being liminal without even trying. This Party City map is incredibly liminal. Not only is it liminal by definition, with it seemingly being on the verge of closing, but it also just so happens to be really nostalgic. And the classic Gmod pasted in PNGs adds to the aesthetic really well. These Darth Vader and Spider-Man pinatas had me going back and looking at some of my cherished childhood memories. This map reminded me of this image the most. There's just such a weird vibe when it comes to looking at party images like this. This one specifically always gives me a crazy vibe. Do kids even still do these throne rooms for their birthdays anymore? I never really see these anymore, and I mean, I don't go to a lot of kids' birthday parties, but the last one I saw was probably when I was 8 years old. Party rooms kind of look like this nowadays, and well, they're still liminal as hell. I find it incredibly funny that companies post these not knowing that they're posting literal liminal space, backrooms level core fucking slop, I guess. By the way, this Party City map has no intentions of being liminal whatsoever. Gmod maps are simply just built like that, and I love it so much. Do you guys remember like the flying ghouls they'd have in the back during Halloween? Those always scared the shit out of me. Anyways though, they're not in the map, unfortunately. Let's go through a couple maps that are based off images. This is one of my favorite liminal space images, and it's very popular specifically in the backrooms community. As far as I know, this image was taken in a Borders bookstore. Whatever that is. I suppose it's an old bookstore, obviously. But apparently, a ton of these Borders bookstores closed down in 2011, which would explain why there's no books on the shelves in the images. If this image was actually taken at a Borders bookstore, which I'm not sure. But it's only right that someone would go out of their way to make a Gmod map based off the image. It's pretty one-to-one to the original image, and there's a lot more to it than you'd think. As you progress through the map, you can find a bunch of different backroom style rooms, as well as a couple different variations of the end room. This pool room is my personal favorite. There's just some about it. It looks so cozy. There's also this cool office room, which out of every room in the map, I think captures the backrooms the best. Other than the end room, I guess. If you go up this ladder in this storage room, you'll find these like apartment rooms, which I didn't fully process how weird that was while I was recording. But now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it's pretty weird. I'm a really big fan of the amount of effort the creator put into this map. It would have been fine with just the end room, but he went above and beyond, and I can definitely respect that a lot. There are a couple of different maps out there that set out to recreate these types of images. I will say though, before we get into this, viewer discretion is advised. I'd say this is a bit more Dreamcore than Liminal. In other words, I know! Anyways though, this map in specific just kills my computer for some reason. But if you go over to this car, you can actually hear that the engine is on, which I think is really interesting. There's honestly not really much to this map. The interiors are pretty cool and liminal. My only gripe about this one is that they don't have a water tower, and it kills my computer. Alright guys, I have really good news. This one has a water tower. Also, in my opinion, it has way more of a Dreamcore aesthetic, and I think this comes from the glare of the skybox. Looks very nice. There's also a car on this map, which I find pretty interesting, but unfortunately, you can't go into any of the houses because they're all locked. At a certain point while I was roaming around the map, some music started playing. I am a really big fan of how simplistic this map is. The houses don't even have any textures, which I really don't mind at all. What I love the most, however, is how perfect they got the grass and the sky, which is something I think the other two maps were very much lacking on. You know, I mean, these are cool and all, but didn't we just do these with the McDonald's in the backrooms? I mean, technically, isn't that a picture? I mean, like, come on, dude. This whole section just feels like you're trying to stretch out the video. I mean, the least you could do is come up with a genuinely good, Hey man, get me out of here! Get me out of here, man! You've probably seen this place before. This is a Gmod map based off the iconic image of a hotel courtyard. This image blew up in the height of Liminal Spaces and the backrooms. The eerie vibe comes from the fact that everything is indoors. Yo. I did not know this map was haunted. The image also leans into the idea of transitionary spaces, with it being in a courtyard with a view of all the room windows. Small thing I'd like to point out is that this music was actually taken directly from the map. If you interact with this record player, it'll play this fire beat. All map links in the description. And those are the liminal spaces of Gmod. I really do think that these two genres were made for each other.